Many of us were told, don't go to Burkina Faso. It's a war-torn country. Guns all over the street. Mr. President, we want you to know that the more they told us not to go to Burkina Faso, the more we ran to Burkina Faso. Being here in the country of the upright man is a dream come true. To President Traoré, the reincarnation of Thomas Sankara, President Traoré, who has led the struggle to complete the unfinished business that was started by our ancestors and our Pan-African leaders in 1963 when they created the Organization of African Unity. During that meeting, they demanded the creation of an Africa that spoke with one voice, an Africa that was united. That journey is yet to be finished. What is happening in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger, is just the beginning of a revolution that is way past due for Africa. Africa must unite. And Burkina Faso has shown us the way. They have opened the doors. They have shown us that the bully can be defeated. That no more shall we continue to give up our lunch. That we too need to eat. And therefore, there is no negotiating with the bully. The bully had to go, and Burkina Faso showed us how to do it. So, Mr. President, I bring you your children, descendants of the formerly enslaved. They have waited over 400 years to return the spirits of their ancestors back home to Africa. When the children of Africa were taken out of Africa as slaves, all they ever wanted to do was to come back home to Africa. Each and every one of them that you see, many of them are coming to Africa for the first time. They're bringing with them the spirits of their ancestors, to put them to rest here in Burkina Faso. And that's mission number one. Mission number two, we have watched you, Mr. President. You stand for everything that we have hoped for in an African man. Courageous, fearless, and in their faces. France, unapologetically, you told France, pack your bags and go home. You, Mr. President, and the people of Burkina Faso have done it, and we have a responsibility to support you. You have over 300 million African diaspora who are looking up to you. We are here to show you that we are with you. We support you. We are behind you, and we will not let you down. Many of us were told, don't go to Burkina Faso. It's a war-torn country. Guns all over the street. Mr. President, we want you to know that the more they told us not to go to Burkina Faso, the more we ran to Burkina Faso. No one tells them not to go to Europe, to their countries of origin. Therefore, no one will tell us not to come home to Burkina Faso. So mission number 2 is to let you, Mr. President, know that you and the citizens of Burkina Faso have done all the heavy lifting. The least we can do is to support you. So we are here. Our third mission is to see what can we do, Mr. President, to play our part in building the Burkina Faso we want.
Welcome to African Insider. In today's video, we'll be exploring the top African GDP economies in 2024. Join us as we delve into the economic landscapes of the continent's leading nations, analyzing key factors driving their growth and development. Starting our list at position 10 is Ivory Coast, also known as Cote d'Ivoire, with a GDP of $79.4 billion as of the year 2024. The country boasts a robust GDP supported by a diverse economy comprising agriculture, manufacturing, and services, with cocoa production playing a significant role in its export revenue. Additionally, the government initiative to promote economic diversification and infrastructure development have further contributed to its GDP growth trajectory. At number 9, we have Tanzania with a GDP of $84 billion, which is a very huge jump from the previous 75 billion. And they're mostly involved in mining, where we have gold, diamonds, and gemstone. And then agriculture also plays a great role in their GDP. Tourism is also one of the top earner for Tanzania, with national parks like Serengeti National Park and tourist attraction like the Zanzibar, which is the island, and Mount Kilimanjaro. All those together have made Tanzania the 9th largest GDP economy on the continent. And our position 8, we have Angola with a GDP of $93.8 billion as of the year 2024, or the beginning of 2024. And when you talk of Angola, you always know that it's oil wealth. Angola is a major oil exporter, with Angola's economy heavily relying on oil revenue. The economic challenges they have is the post-civil war reconstruction and diversification efforts that are taking place in Angola. For our position 7, we have Kenya with a GDP of $112.7 billion. Kenya's GDP economy showcases a diverse mix of sectors, including agriculture, manufacturing, services, and tourism, with notable growth in information technology and financial services in the recent years. M-Pesa, or the mobile money revolution that started in Kenya. And also, don't forget government-led infrastructure projects like the Kenya's Standard Gauge Railway and other initiatives that have led to boost entrepreneurship, innovation, and basically boosted their GDP growth in recent years. And for number 6, we have Morocco with a GDP of $147.3 billion. And just like Kenya, Morocco's GDP economy is characterized by a diverse mix of sectors, including agriculture, manufacturing, services, and tourism, with the latter, the tourism, being a key driver of economic activity and employment in Morocco. government-led reforms and strategic investments in infrastructure and renewable energy have further bolstered Morocco's position as a regional economic hub. At position 5, we have Ethiopia with a GDP of 155.8 billion US dollars. How Ethiopia jumped both Kenya and Morocco is a story for another day, but the Ethiopian GDP economy is primarily driven by agriculture, manufacturing and services, with agriculture employing a significant portion of the population and contributing substantially to the export earnings of Ethiopia. Now, the other key sector is the government-led industrialization, and particularly the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam that has contributed to their GDP hitting 155 billion. As we head to position 4, the margin between the previous number 5 and the fourth one widens with more than $100 billion. And at position 4, we have Algeria with a GDP of 267.7 billion US dollars. Algeria's GDP economy relies heavily on hydrocarbon exports, particularly oil and natural gas, which constitute the majority of its export revenue and government income. Efforts to diversify the economy into sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and renewable energy are still ongoing. But also, don't forget that the war in Ukraine bolstered the Algerian GDP growth as more European countries started buying gas from Algeria. Now, on to position 3. For position 3, you're going to see also a huge margin in the GDP growth between 4 and 3. So we have South Africa with a GDP of 408.1 billion US dollars. And the country's GDP economy is diverse, encompassing sectors such as mining, manufacturing, agriculture, and services, with mining historically playing a significant role in export revenue for South Africa. Challenges such as high unemployment and inequality still persist in South Africa, but ongoing efforts to address structural reforms and promote investment aim to bolster the economic resilience and inclusive growth of South Africa. For position 2, which is a country I suspect you'd have guessed, is Egypt with a GDP of 476.8 billion US dollars. The country's GDP economy is multifaceted, with key sectors including tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, and natural gas production contributing to its economic output and employment. Despite challenges such as political instability and infrastructure limitations, government reforms and investment initiatives aim to stimulate economic growth and diversification, positioning Egypt as a regional economic powerhouse. And lastly, our position 1, we have Nigeria with a GDP of 494.4 billion. That is 494.4 billion US dollars, which is a drop from the previous GDP of more than 500 billion US dollars. Nigeria's GDP economy is primarily driven by oil production, which historically has been the main source of export revenue and government income, though efforts to diversify into sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and services are underway. Challenges such as corruption, insecurity, and infrastructure deficits still persist in Nigeria, but ongoing reforms and investment initiatives aim to foster sustainable economic growth and reduce dependency on oil in Nigeria, though I still doubt. But that's those efforts that are taking place. So as I sum up this video, making a video on the top 10 largest economies in Africa is actually very time consuming and mostly tough, and I hope that you share these videos. I would have hoped to make a video of all the countries in Africa comparing their GDP economies, but that would take more time and more effort, which is not something that is easy to come by. But just using the 10 of them, I've painted a picture that the sector that often drives most African GDPs is agriculture, due to the continent's vast arable land and reliance on farming for sustenance and export revenue. Countries can learn from successful countries like Ethiopia and Kenya, where government investment in modernizing agricultural practices, promoting agribusiness, and improving infrastructure has contributed to the significant GDP growth. Also, mining is also a very important sector. And finally, we have tourism. A lot of African countries have very attractive features to sell to the outer world, and tourism can actually be a very important sector to improve a country's GDP.